Good morning, guys. So I'm a little annoyed. I just recorded a whole video and then the screen didn't record, but it just recorded my voice. So this is my second time recording this video. So we're just gonna go over one of the freckle questions that like 60% of the class got right. So some people struggled with it. Most of us did get this one right though. So it says, which of the statements below are true? Select all that apply, so we know it can have more than one answer. So it has the sail. The sail is the triangular part of the boat. So it wanted to know about their areas. So before you can even answer this, you first needed to figure out their areas. So the base of A was 7 and the height was 9. So you see how over here I already had written it out when I recorded my other video. So now it's at least here. So it saves us some time at least. So I did 1/2 times 7 times 9. And then if you look here, I did 7 times 9 first to get to 63. We know that the order of multiplication doesn't matter, so I can multiply 9 times 7 first. I could have also did 1/2 of 7 to do 3.5 and then do 3.5 times 9. I just chose to do that so you can see that it doesn't matter the order of multiplication. And then if you look over on the right hand side for sail B, I wrote 1/2 times 6 times 9, so 1/2 base times height. And this one I did 1/2 of 6 just because I know that gives me 3, and 3 times 9 is 27. So my answer choice of B should be good, and let's see, and C, because sail A is greater than B. So I would mark B and C as the correct answers here. So we're going to do a couple questions together. So we were supposed to do them together, but I already have them written. But I want you to follow along. So as I'm going through, I would write it down or pause if you need to. So in this first triangle, let me see if I can erase this. Okay, good. So in this first video, you have 3 different dimensions given to you. You have the 5, the 12, and the 13. However, though, you only want one base and one height. So for this, when I'm picking out the base and the height, I first need to look for my right angle. There is my right angle. So the 2 lines that make that right angle is the 5 and this 12 here. So 5 and 12 are perpendicular to each other because they make a right angle. You know they make a right angle because there is a box there. That box shows you that it's 90 degrees or a right angle. So in this example here, I wrote 1/2 times 12 times 5. 12 could be the base, or 5 could be the base, and the other one could be the height because they're both sides of the triangle. So the base always has to be a side of the triangle, so I could switch them. So 12 and 5 are your bases and your heights. So here I wrote it out as 1/2 times 12, which we know is 6, and then I did 6 times 5. I could have also did 12 times 5 first to get 60, and then did 60 times 1/2, and my answer here would be 30 units squared. In the middle, I gave you both ways to write the formula. So here it says area equals 1/2 times base times height. I know if I put them all next to each other, that means multiplying. But you could also write it as BH divided by 2, because that's base times height divided by 2, because we know that multiplying by 1/2 is the same thing as dividing by 2. Then the question on the right hand side says, what is the area of the triangle? For this one, I'm using 8 and 10 as my base and my height. It doesn't matter which one I call which, because they're both sides of the triangle. Okay, those are your bases and your heights because those 2 lines are perpendicular to each other. You know that these 2 lines are perpendicular to each other because there is my right angle. That's my 90 degrees. So in this case, I'm going to just write it out this way. I could do 8 times 10 divided by 2. So if I do 8 times 10, that's 80. Divided by 2 is 40. So now what I want you to do is I want you to try these 2 questions by yourself. So I want you to draw out these 2 pictures, then pause the video so I could explain it. Okay? So please don't just keep watching and not do them yourself. Okay, that's not going to be helpful to your learning. Yes, it's just a faster way to get the answer, but you're not actually learning anything unless you try by yourself. So please just pause right here so you can find their areas. So I have their answers already made for us here. So the first answer should be 120 units squared. The reason for that is because 10 and 24 are the base and the height. Again, I can interchange those. So I did 10 times 24, which is 240, divided by 2, which is 120. I could have also taken half of 10 to do half of 10, which is 5 times 24. Or I could have taken half of 24, which is 12, and then did that times 10. Okay? On the one on the right, you should get an answer of 84 units squared. 7 and 24 are my base and my height. For this one, I don't want to multiply 24 times 7 and divide it by 2, just because that's more work for myself. So you always kind of want to use like the easiest way of the formula. So if I take half of 24 first, my numbers get smaller, and I get 12, and then I could do 12 times 7 in my head, which is 84. I could have also written half times 7 here, so I could have did half of 7 and then times it by 24, but I don't want to do that because half of 7 is 3.5, and I'd rather not deal with decimals when I don't have to. Okay, just a couple more problems. Let's look at these two. So I have a little bit different of a triangle here. So first thing I need to do is find my perpendicular lines. So in this case, you see I circled the 2 and the 6. My right angle is here. So what two lines form that? This line going straight up and then the line on the bottom for the 6. So that means 6 and 2 are your bases and your height. Here, technically, 6 would be labeled as the base and 2 would be labeled as the height because the base has to be part of your triangle, one of the 3 sides. That 2 is a dotted line, so it's not a side of my triangle. So then in this case, I wrote it out as 1/2 times 2 times 6. I took half of 2 first to get 1 times 6 to get 6 units squared for this one. And then if we look off to the right, I see right here, there is a box, which tells me that I have a 90-degree angle, which tells me that I have a right angle. So I need my base and my height. So my base and my height are going to be these 2 lines. Okay, so my height's going to be 10 because 8 is part of my triangle, so I want 8 to be the base because the base has to be a side. I wrote here and I scribbled it out. If you were to see a number here, sometimes they'll do that to trick you. So like I put a 3 here before. It's a really ugly 3, but it's a 3. I still only want to use 8. That dotted line that I just added here to show the 3 is not part of your triangle. So I don't want to add these. I don't want to do anything with this or count the 3. Just the 8 is the side of the triangle. So I'm just using another variation of the formula. So here I did 8 times 10 divided by 2. So 8 times 10 is 80. Divided by 2 should be 40 units squared. I could have also taken half of 10 to get 5 and did 5 times 8 is 40. Or I could have taken half of 8, which is 4. 4 times 10 is 40. So you could divide by 2 in the end, or you could take half of one of the numbers first, whichever you prefer. And we know we can do that because timesing by half is the same thing as dividing by 2, and we know the order of multiplication doesn't matter. So what I want you to do, I want you to practice these 2 by yourself. So draw these out on paper so you can label it day 4 notes where you have your 2 other triangles that you hopefully did by yourself. So please pause the video so you can do these by yourself. Don't just wait for the answer. Click pause to do. And here are your answers. The first answer is 64. I wrote centimeters squared. You could just say units for this one. So you could just write out the word squared when we're doing stuff with on the computer, which a lot of you guys did on your Edpuzzle, which I love that you started to use the units. And then also some people started using the caret So you would hit shift 6 with the 2, which was awesome that I saw some of you guys doing that, which I loved. So your answer for this one would be 64. So you see here I have out the work. I took half of 16, which is 8, and did 8 times 8 is 64. The 10 is irrelevant to this problem because it's not your base or it's not your height. Where I highlighted over in yellow, that's your right angle. What two lines form that right angle are the 8 and the 6. Okay? And the one on the right you should check. You should have gotten 6 units squared. So here we did 3 times 4, which is 12, and then did 12 divided by 2 to get 6 units squared. I could have also taken half of 4, which is 2, and then times it by 3 to get 6. I really wouldn't want to take half of 3 because that gets me 1.5, and I'd rather not deal with decimals unless I have to. So if one of your sides is an even number, it's always a good idea just to take half of that even number and then multiply it by the other one. Okay, so what you're going to do now is you're going to go on to Edulastic to do the questions there. If I notice that there's like one or two questions in particular that most people are getting wrong, I'll record a video and go over it just like I would normally do in class. But if you have questions, make sure to private message me and I will be answering them. Please make sure once you submit it, you actually open back up your answers so you can go back over. I want you to write it down so that way if you're wrong, you can kind of tell yourself what you did wrong. So even though I'm not walking around to tell you to, hey, go back, check your greens, your reds, your yellows, I mean just your red and your yellow questions, please do that on your own so you know if, hopefully you can find your mistake. If you can't find your mistakes, I will be doing my best to keep up with all of your messages in the private message okay? Let me know if there's anything else, but other than that, I will talk to you guys soon. Bye, guys.